Welcome to Right on Track, a songwriting podcast. Thanks to Tone for tuning in. I'm Demi Michelle Schwartz, and I'm thrilled you're joining me on my songwriting journey. So kick back and relax, don't fall flat, and remember, stay right on track. Hello everyone, welcome back to Right on Track. I'm so excited to be chatting with my special guest today. We've been trying to get a date that works for a couple months now. We finally got it all sorted. So please welcome to the show, Avery Raquel.
Hi! Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I'm so glad that we were finally able to figure something out.
I know, me too. How are you?
I'm good, busy, but also just not busy. It's a weird in-between kind of place that I'm in right now, but I'm just, doing what I can.
Yeah, no, literally all of us. So everybody listening, we are recording on February 15th. So Avery, how has your year been?
So far, it's been really great. I honestly can't complain. I released a song in February. Or no, sorry, what am I saying? In January. I released a song like right after New Year's, and it's been doing really well. It's called All Up to You. It's kind of got a funky, groovy vibe to it. So I was really thrilled about that. And other than that, I've just been doing some shows and gigging as much as I can in school, doing some stuff at school. So just honestly, it's been a lot, but it's also been really rewarding to be able to actually do stuff.
Oh, that's fabulous. Yeah, I know for me too, the whole balancing school and being an artist thing. Luckily, I'm graduating grad school in June, so I'm coming up to the end here. But yeah, it's crazy. It's like we all get it. If you're in school and you're an artist, we all get it.
It's hard, yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm so excited you're joining me today because we're chatting all about staying creative and keeping momentum, which is really important, especially during the times we're living in right now. So before we get deeper into this, can you share with the listeners a little bit about who is Avery Raquel?
Yeah, of course. So I'm a singer-songwriter. I started singing when I was about 4 years old, and I also played violin at that age. And then I stopped violin, moved to piano, and most of my career started in musical theater, actually, and acting. And then later it evolved into me focusing on my music primarily. So at 13, I released my first record, and then I started writing songs at 15. And ever since then, it's just been writing, and more writing. So that's pretty much me. I'm a Billboard charting artist, which is great. And I usually before COVID, I would do about 40 to 50 shows a year, and now I'm just doing what I can.
Yeah. Well, you've had quite the journey so far. And literally, when you said you started violin and then quit and went to piano, I was like, like I started violin when I was really young, like in elementary school. Yeah, I think I was like third or fourth grade. I joined like this violin class in elementary and I hated it. Like it didn't work. And then like a year later, 2 years later, I started piano and then it was like marriage. Like I loved piano, so it worked. Yeah, so it's funny that you kind of had the same thing. But you're about to release an album, so we'll definitely be weaving that in as well. But to kick off our chat today, can you read a quote by Jimmy Dean?
Of course. I love this quote as soon as I read it. So, I can't change the direction of the wind, but I can adjust my sails to always reach my destination. Because it's so true. Oh, I love that.
So what does this mean to you? I know I sent you a handful of quotes and you said this is the one that resonated. So why is this the one?
Well, I think it's just because, you really can't control what's going to come at you in life, and you have no idea how things are going to play out. But honestly, you can weave any situation in a direction that is suitable for you, and things will end up working in your favor. So I think it's really interesting, and I really enjoyed it. It definitely resonated with me because things are thrown at us as artists all the time, and COVID was thrown at us, but we can definitely weave our situation in a certain direction that will allow success. So I thought it was really great.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I think too, like when I saw this one, I was really drawn by like the language and the
Mhm.
sailing metaphor. I think that's really cool. And I completely agree. It's like, I know I've heard people say before, and there's a psychology concept that says like something is like just neutral until you decide if it's positive or negative. And a lot of times when we look at change and these obstacles thrown our way, we can think bad things about them, like they're negative things. But I think it's all about, you know, finding creative ways of redirecting our sales to like get us in that right direction again. And I think, like you said, COVID has been huge in this, and we definitely had to find new ways of connecting with fans and keeping our momentum going as artists. And finding ways to stay creative has been a big part of that for me. So, first, what does creativity in general mean to you?
Oh my goodness. Well, I think it's anything that um, I guess just speaks to you. It's very individual to the person. For me, like my creativity is songwriting, and so like in May of 2020, when all of this first started, I did a songwriting challenge for myself, and I wrote 3 to 4 songs a week for the whole month of May. And that was just to kind of keep things going and keep doing things because as a songwriter, you know, you kind of write based off of real life and life literally wasn't happening. So, you know, just finding ways to allow those creative juices to flow while like not forcing the creativity to happen. And I know creativity is different for everybody. And some other things that I do to stay creative is like painting. I wouldn't say like I'm like a great artist, but like it's really relaxing and it's stress relieving and it just allows those creative juices to flow. Especially just like with color and with music, and I think it's so closely related.
Wow, no, for sure. Yeah, I love that. I love how you did the challenges too, because like you said, very much of what we do as songwriters is write about our lives. And when we're stuck at home doing nothing for like 2 years, like you can't really like find much personal life experience. So I've done as well, like I've done retreats, and at the end of November into December, I did a 30-day songwriting challenge.
Oh, awesome.
So yeah, I've been doing those things too, and I think that's awesome. And painting, girl, that's so cool. I think for me, like I am getting my master's currently in writing popular fiction, so creative writing is definitely a way I've been able to stay creative too. And I think this podcast is as well because I started
Mhm.
to think of the idea for this podcast like the middle of 2020, and then when 2021 came around made a big New Year's resolution. I'm starting the podcast this year, and like
That's
even though
amazing.
this is very like it's more on the technical side of things with the recording and all the planning and everything, but I think this is something super creative, getting to talk to people and being inspired. So anytime that you and I can find those ways, there's different avenues. I think that's the main thing, like especially nowadays, like we need to find new ways of finding our creativity, because if we resort back to our old ways, that isn't always working out now. So it's always finding those new paths to go down.
No, absolutely, and, like, doing this podcast I love the title, by the way,
Oh,
"Right on
thank
Track," that's awesome. I
you.
love that play on words, it's so great. But, like, I even did something similar too, like, I did, a live stream, and I did it, like, biweekly,
Yeah.
from, like, April 2020 all the way to I think the end of 2021, and you know it really just kept things going and it kept me like connected to people, right? So like you get to reach out to people to do this podcast with you and to talk to people, so like that's you know something that also helps the creative juices flow because you want to pick people's brains, you want to see what they're up to and see like you know one, am I doing things right? Or like
Yeah.
two, like I'm not alone in all of this, right? So
Yeah, for
it's a very
sure.
helpful.
Yeah, for sure. And I know that you and I both were working on albums during this. I
Right.
released mine on October 2021. I'm currently working on a new EP. And your debut, your self-titled album is coming out very soon. And
Yeah.
so we had to find ways of staying creative and inspired to create these projects. So what are some ways that you specifically were able to keep your creativity and inspiration going for your album?
So the songwriting challenge in May definitely helped, but also just reaching out to musicians that I knew who could help with the production of that album and could help with you know playing on the album, and just the hearing the songs come to life made me want to be more creative. And now we didn't necessarily have the best resources in which to record the album because Canada, like we were locked down for quite some time and you know studios weren't open or anything like that, so all of the vocals on the album were actually recorded in a closet.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so I literally like sat in a closet for like 8 hours a day, and my producer was like in another room, and like
Oh,
we
wow.
recorded all these
Oh my
vocals.
gosh, it works
Yeah.
though. I'm recording in
Yeah.
my closet currently. I always record my podcast in the closet. Like,
Yeah.
it works.
It does work. It's the best. Like when in doubt, at home studio right there. It's so much cheaper too.
Oh wow. No, that's so cool. I think, that's the thing too, like as creatives, like songwriters and you with painting and me as writing, like our minds are wired to like think outside the box and you're in the position like I am doing an album, COVID's not going to stop my album, so
Yeah.
like I'm going to find a way to make it work and you did and I think that's really really inspiring. What would you say the biggest roadblock you hit with the whole process was though?
I think just finding the right time to release it because when like even just like singles, finding the time to release those because you want to release them when you can like go out and perform and follow that momentum up with something else and you can follow that up with maybe making a music video and releasing stuff like that to keep that song at the top of people's minds and we definitely I think had we were very cautious about when I wanted to release the songs or like the singles that are out now and when we even wanted to release the album. I think we pushed the date to release the album like 3 or 4 times. Like we wanted to release it I think in March and then it's like, you know what? March is really soon, so maybe we just hold off a bit. So we pushed it to April for the whole album release. But yeah, you want to follow these things up with a lot of shows and stuff. So luckily and hopefully, fingers crossed, nothing gets canceled. But I'm releasing the album in April 7th, I believe, and I have a bunch of show dates for the end of April across Ontario, so that's really helpful. So you can, like, really follow that up with something, but that was probably the biggest challenge, I think, was just finding the right time to let people hear all of the stuff that you've been
Yeah.
working so hard. Yeah.
Oh, totally. No, 100%. And I think, I think that all comes down to like being able to adapt as well. Like the music industry is always changing, the world's always changing. And I think, I feel like one of the mistakes I made with my first project that I kind of learned the hard way that I'm definitely doing different with the EP is like, I was supposed to release the album May of 2020. It didn't come out until October 2021, which was majorly pushed. And at that point, I just like, I wanted it out because I was already working on music that was sonically different, like country pop stuff. And I just like, I felt like my hands were tied with the new music. And so I just wanted this project out. I loved the album, but it was just like so old to me at the time. And I was just like, I need this out. And I think like, I feel like I rushed it a little bit. I would have loved to do more with it, but because like last year, like it was really bad. COVID was really bad here. Like at the end of 2021, no shows, no nothing. I tried to do as much promo I could, like virtually. But I feel like the whole process was really rushed as it is, and so I love how you're being aware of like the situation and pushing it if it has to be, because I'm the kind of person who like if I have a if I have a release date, it's like that release date and Demi's not changing her mind. But I feel like now, because it was such a challenge like trying to squeeze things in, I was so anxious to the point where like the week before the album I was so burned out that I like just didn't want to promote it anymore. And so this time around with the new EP I'm working on, it's like I'm recording all the songs, then I'm going to decide when to release it instead of like trying to rush a date.
No,
And I
for
think
sure.
that's like really important to be aware of, and you definitely are.
Well, like, part of me is, like, really wanting to just, like, get it out there because like, I've listened to these songs so many
Oh
times now, and I'm just like,
yeah.
"Oh my gosh," like, I just wanna get it out there, I'm tired of this, but, I'll wait, and I'll, like hopefully that'll be, for the better.
Yeah. So going back to a little bit with the keeping our momentum during this time, aside from the music and our, changing up our processes and doing other side projects to keep us motivated, what have been some ways that you have consistently delivered content to your audience aside from the live streams, and did more creative things virtually to keep that engagement up?
Right. So I'm pretty terrible at social media. Like I'm not gonna lie. Like I know how to use it and it's a great tool if you use it right. But like I think Instagram especially, I could definitely use some work and like I just get lazy and I just forget to post because I would love to take like a mental break from Instagram or just social media in general, but it's such a great tool if you use it properly. So honestly, I think I could use some work there. But some other things that like I would do is Patreon. So I would post some stuff for the patrons that follow me on Patreon and who donate money graciously every so often. So, you know, just making content for that, like little shows, doing some private live streams there. And what else? It's like Q&As. I would post like sneak peeks of like songs I was writing, my songwriting process. I'd literally like record like the entire who knows how long, how many hours of me just writing a full song, and we would edit together the most important parts and stick it on Patreon. So, yeah, there's definitely some stuff that helped there virtually keeping that momentum going, but I think social media is probably the main one, and it could definitely use work. I think, you know, Twitter and Facebook is okay, but Instagram's tricky, I gotta say, like, trying to, like I think people, like, they wanna they how do I put this? They will follow you if you have a lot of followers, but they won't follow you unless you have a lot of followers, but you can't get a lot of followers unless you get followers. It's
Yeah,
like this
yeah, for
never-ending
sure.
cycle.
Also, the algorithm is like, I feel like it's getting worse. Like, I've been seeing a lot
Yeah,
of artists posting, like, even artists who have like thousands and thousands of thousands posting, like, this was my reach in 2019, this is my reach now. And it's like,
yeah.
I've kind of felt the same way because I have like over 3,000, I think. And
Mhm.
like, I post something and it gets like under 100 likes. And it's like, when I
Wow,
used to,
what's
I would
happening?
get close to a couple hundred. And like, I like to do live streams on there, but it's
Right.
like, I just did a live stream today and only like 15ish people were watching. And it's like, I have all these
Mhm.
followers and the algorithm's just like really bad. And so I think that's the thing. Like, I love Twitter. I'm on there all the time, but I feel like Instagram, because of like how the dimensions are on the posts and things, it's like you have to
Mhm.
put more thought into like creating content for that. And I just, because of how it is and how the reach and engagement is so low, I just don't feel like it's worth the time. I don't know.
Yeah, no, for real, I agree, like and the same thing, like, with TikTok, I think, like, I would post and try to post TikToks, but what I've read is that they push the algorithm, I think, for you get a maximum of 2 hours when you post a video, and either it takes off or it doesn't, and then that's the, like, end of the lifespan for that video.
Yeah, I'm not on TikTok yet. Everybody's telling me to. I haven't started one yet, but it's like the same thing. It's like also like as a student, like I don't have time to like
No,
do that.
exactly, that's the thing, like, you're focused on so many things, like, as an artist in general, but then also just, like, with school, like, it's definitely not a top priority, which is hard because when you want that momentum to keep going, I think, like, Um, that unfortunately happens to be one of the main tools.
Mhm.
Um, but, you know, c'est la vie. I'm not gonna bash on Instagram because it's a good tool, but, like you know, there's definitely struggles to all of these social media platforms.
Yeah, for sure. So, speaking about your album a little more, how was that whole process like for you from a creative standpoint? I know you did some of the songs during a challenge, but the overall process of creating the concept for it and, the whole marketing branding side of it, what was that like for you?
So, I was in contact with, my producer. His name is Nicholas Tataishi, and he's a guitar player, and he plays in my band on a regular basis, and he had mentioned to me, in September of 2020 that, like, he's doing a lot more producing and stuff like that, and if I wanted help with anything, then he'd be available. So we reached out and he was totally down for it. So him and I together worked on the arrangements for the songs. But totally remotely. So he would just like send me, you know, a demo and I'd say, fix this, change that. I don't like this and I like that. And then he'd change it, send it to me. I'd be like, great, perfect. So it was, you know, a weird way of communicating virtually, but it worked out really well. And he's one of those producers that knows exactly what you're talking about when what you're saying still makes no sense to anyone else,
Yeah,
which
oh
was
my
really,
gosh.
really helpful as a producer, and I think that's the sign of a good producer. But so he'd send the demos to to the musicians, remotely. So all the musicians recorded remotely, and I had, just a regular rhythm section, so bass, drums, piano, guitar, and then I had a couple horns on some songs, but just 2, I think. So, he sent out all the demos, told them to record from home. They did because my drummer's living in LA now. So that wasn't helpful for Ontario recording purposes. And then my bassist lives in Montreal, so that's pretty far out. And then the keys player lives in Toronto, and Nick also lived in Toronto, so that worked out fine. But yeah, so he sent them all out the demos, they recorded, they sent it back, and then we had a full track, and then I went in to record my vocals with him in the closet, and and it all came together, and I think, like, the most creative aspect of all of this that I had developed and the most, like, skill that I would had worked on for this record, I think would be the background vocals, like, those Bee Gees were hard, and, like, it it's because, like, Nick and I both creatively came up with, the BG parts together in the moment, so there was nothing really set in stone yet, and we just kind of allowed ourselves to do whatever we felt was necessary for the song and what added, the right colors and whatnot. So there's one song where it's only background vocals, like there's no musicians playing. It's BGs and then my lead vocal.
Oh,
So
whoa.
yeah,
No
so
way. I'm so
it's a
hyped for
lot.
this.
Yeah, it's a lot, and, there was so much that went into it, so I think I can't even remember how long that song took us, but 'cause you do, like, you do a "ooh," and then you double the "ooh," so you go "ooh" again, and then he wanted a different vowel on the same note, so I went and then we did the again for the double, and he goes, "Great, next note." So we had to build, like, 4-part chords with
Oh
all
my
of these different
gosh.
things. Oh, it
Oh,
was
whoa.
crazy, so that's probably,
That's
where
so
our creative
cool.
juices flowed the most.
That's so cool. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Whoa. Oh my God. Yeah. No, I love how you brought up like the whole recording process because I think in general, like, staying creative as songwriters, like a huge part of that is the recording process. I know, like for
Mhm.
me, being hands-on in the studio is really important, and it seems that
Right.
way to you. Like having your producer send you demos and say, like, I don't like this, like I like this. Like same way, my producer is probably like exhausted in some points. Like I feel like we got to the point where like he really knows me now, so like we think in sync, and it's kind of scary at times. But I feel like we're at the point where he knows what I want. But when we started, I feel like we had to get past some things of all the bumps along the road or whatever. But I think it's really fun when you get to do like the arrangement stuff and the backing vocals. Like I love doing the backing vocals too. They're really fun. I've never done a full blown acapella thing with like backing vocals and leads, but that'd be really cool. But yeah, that's really fun. Like I always love those moments, like being like at the studio doing the vocals, and then hearing my producer like, "Oh, double this, double this." I doubling is like so weird to do. I have like a big issue of like hearing myself and then like singing over myself. It's really weird. You have to get
Yeah.
used to that. But it's definitely like a creative side of it. Hearing those songs come to life is so special. So out of
Mhm.
all of the songs on your album, which would you say was the most fun that you had during the recording process?
Oh gosh. Um, hmm, that's tricky. I think there's 2. I would say, um, "Helpless," which is already released. We released it as a single, so that one was really fun to
Oh,
record.
yeah. That's my favorite
Um
of yours. I
Oh,
love it.
thank you. So that one was really fun. The other one that was fun is called "Take It From Me." It hasn't been released yet, but it will be. And yeah, I'm really excited for people to hear that one too. But we had a lot of fun with those BGs, and just the way that it sounds is like just super funky. And the song in general, I wrote it like during the pandemic, but I was just running out of ideas about like what to write about my own life, so I literally made up a story
Oh,
in my head
wow.
and wrote it about something that's literally never happened to me. So, it's, like, about a whole situation, like, going to a bar, meeting someone, but, like, that's never happened because of COVID, and I turned legal drinking age in COVID, so I think, like, going to bars is nothing. So, like, I had to make stories up and put myself maybe in someone else's shoes. Maybe this has happened to someone, maybe it hasn't, and great if they can connect to it. I'm sure somebody can out there. Everyone's, been out and met someone, great. But, I kind of improvised a little bit and made up a story, and it turned into one of like my favorite songs. So I think it's
Oh
really fun.
wow. That's so cool. I love it. Yeah, that's a whole other side of the creativity getting into like the storytelling. And like I've definitely been in a lot of situations like that, especially in co-writes, because when you're in co-writes, like you can bring yourself into the co-write, but if you're writing with another writer who like really wants to write about something that's not really something you've experienced, you kind of have to act and like put yourself in their shoes. And I've definitely had those experiences, and I think that's like made me a more rounded writer. I think like when you can force yourself to write about something you haven't experienced, because
Hmm.
I feel like it's easy to write about your own life because it's you and you can kind of like craft it in a way that reflects your life and all of that. But when you're writing about something that you kind of have to use your imagination to think outside the box and imagine being in that situation, I think that really expands your, abilities as a songwriter.
For sure, yeah. It was a fun little exercise to do, and I would definitely do it again. But it did take a lot of thinking, just like how can I pretend to not be me, basically.
Oh, well, you said you've done musical theater, right? So you've definitely
Yeah.
acted. So
No,
has
of
that
course.
found a way into your writing with that song?
Yeah, yeah, you know what? I'd say so, and I think that it plays a part in almost every song because you can perform these songs that you've written, but you might not be in that place in your life anymore.
Oh,
And to
wow.
convey
Yeah.
the emotion in that song, you still need to kind of put yourself in that place, whether you like it or not.
Hmm.
And I think the acting's definitely helped for that, being able to convey the emotion of the song through a time period where I'm not, suffering or I'm not sad. Like, it's so hard to write a happy song, and
For
that's
sure.
just a personal opinion, but I think it's a common one. But yeah, like my parents are always like, "Why are your songs so sad?" It's like, well, because it's easy to write about sad things. Writing happy is so hard. Like I'm not sad right now either, so like I don't even have any creativity going on. So yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, just look at all that goes into being a songwriter. Like, you have to do like the writing side, the music side. You kind of have to be a little bit of an actress as well, tap into those emotions. I know for me, I really had to work on the performance aspect, like even when recording, because like especially like recording songs that I've written, it's like I wrote the song, so like I know the melody, I know the lyrics, like I know it, like the back of my hand. But it's like when you're recording it, you also need to convey that emotion. And when I started, I really struggled with that, and now I'm finally at a place where I'm able to act better while recording.
Right. Yeah. No, for sure. Like I think you kind of have to put yourself in the listener's shoes and really just like I don't know, put make sure that they can understand the story that you're trying to convey, I
Hmm.
guess.
Yeah, for sure. So, I have one more question for you, and
Yeah.
this is for anybody listening who might be struggling to stay creative, what advice would you give them?
Record any idea that you have, whether you think it's good or bad. Like because I bring my phone everywhere, and I'm sure everyone else brings their phone everywhere. But if you have, like if you have a melody in your head, sing it into your phone, and maybe it'll be good for later. Like don't write for the trash, write for some other time when you know that you'll use it. And if like what I do is I listen to the conversations that I have with people, and if something that someone says sticks out to me, I write it in my notes.
Me
Like
too. Oh,
yeah.
totally. I'm like the biggest eavesdropper, like
Oh, for
literally.
sure. Yeah, no, I will write down, like, if some like, or even if, like, a situation that stands out to me that, like, someone's going through, like, give me all the tea and I'll write a song about it.
Wow. Okay, that's incredible. Oh, Avery, thank you so much for joining me. This has been awesome. I'm
Thank
so
you.
excited. Yeah, you're welcome. Can you share with everybody where they can find you on social and your website, and also where they can listen to your music?
Of course. So, you can find me at Avery Raquel Music on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, on Twitter. That was too long for them, so it's real Avery Raquel on Twitter. And then my website is averyraquel.com. Oh, and TikTok is Avery Raquel Music. So it's mostly Avery Raquel Music and then averyraquel.com. And all my music is on Apple Music and Spotify and Amazon and all the other streaming platforms, whatever they may be. So yeah, that's me. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. It was awesome having you. Good luck with your album release. I
Thank
cannot wait to
you.
hear it. I'm sure it's going to be incredible. And it was awesome having you on the show. Listeners, thank you so much for listening to this awesome conversation with Avery Raquel. And of course, until next time. time. Stay
Stay
right
right
on
on
track.
track.